your pleasure carries me?" "Thine own will may guide thine own motions," said the Emir, "as freely as the wind which moveth the dust of the desert in what direction it chooseth. The noble enemy who met and well nigh mastered my sword cannot become my slave like him who has crouched beneath it. If wealth and power would tempt thee to join our people, I could ensure thy possessing them. But the man who refused the favours of the Soldan when the axe was at his head will not, I fear, now accept them when I tell him he has free choice." "Complete your generosity, noble Emir," said Sir Kenneth, "by forbearing to show me a mode of requital which conscience forbids me to comply with. Permit me rather to express, as bound in courtesy, my gratitude for this most chivalrous bounty, this undeserved generosity." "Say not undeserved," replied the Emir Ilderim. "Was it not through thy conversation, and thy account of the beauties which grace the court of this Melech Ric, that I ventured me thither in disguise, and thereby procured a sight the most blessed that I have ever enjoyed, that I ever shall enjoy, until the glories of paradise beam on my eyes?" "I understand you not," said Sir Kenneth, colouring alternately and turning pale, as one who felt that the conversation was taking a tone of the most painful delicacy. "Not understand me!" exclaimed the Emir. "If the sight I saw in the tent of King Richard escaped thine observation, I will account it duller than the edge of a buffoon's wooden falchion. True, thou wert under sentence of death at the time, but in my case, had my head been dropping from the trunk, the last strained glances of my eyeballs had distinguished with delight such a vision of loveliness, and the head would have rolled itself towards the incomparable Horus, to kiss with its quivering lips the hem of their vestments. Yonder royalty of England, who for her superior loveliness deserves to be the queen of the universe, what tenderness in her blue eyes, what lustre in her tresses of dishevelled gold! By the tomb of the Prophet, I scarce think that the houri who shall present me the diamond cup of immortality will deserve so warm a caress." "Saracen," said Sir Kenneth sternly, "thou speakest of the wife of Richard of England, of whom men think not and speak not as a woman to be won, but as a queen to be revered." "I cry your mercy," said the Saracen. "I had forgotten your superstitious veneration for the sex, which you consider rather fit to be wondered at and worshipped than wooed and possessed. I warrant, since thou exactest such profound respect to yonder tender piece of frailty, whose every motion, step, and look bespeaks her very woman, less an absolute adoration must not be yielded to her of the dark tresses and nobly speaking eye. She, indeed, I will allow, hath in her noble port and majestic mien something at once pure and firm, yet even she, when pressed by opportunity and a forward lover, would, I warrant thee, thank him in her heart rather for treating her as a mortal than as a goddess." "Respect the kinswoman of Coeur de Lion," said Sir Kenneth in a tone of unrepressed anger. "Respect her!" answered the Emir in scorn. "By the Caaba, and if I do, it shall be rather as the bride of Saladin. The infidel Soldan is unworthy to salute even a spot that has been pressed by the foot of Edith Plantagenet," exclaimed the Christian, springing from his couch. "Ha! what said the Giaour?" exclaimed the Emir, laying his hand on his poniard hilt, while his forehead glowed like glancing copper, and the muscles of his lips and cheeks wrought till each curl of his beard seemed to twist and screw itself, as if alive with instinctive wrath. But the Scottish knight, who had stood the lion anger of Richard, was unappalled at the tiger like mood of the chafed Saracen. "What I have said," continued Sir Kenneth, with folded arms and dauntless look, "I would, were my hands loose, maintain on foot or horseback against all mortals, and would hold it not the most memorable deed of my life to support it with my good broadsword against a score of these sickles and bodkins," pointing at the curved sabre and small poniard of the Emir. The Saracen recovered his composure as the Christian spoke, so far as to withdraw his hand from his weapon, as if the motion had been without meaning, but still continued in deep ire. "By the sword of the Prophet," he he said, which is the key both of heaven and hell, he little values his own life, brother, who uses the language thou dost. Believe me, that were thine hands loose, as thou term'st it, one single true believer would find them so much to do that thou wouldst soon wish them fettered again in manacles of iron. Sooner would I wish them hewn off by the shoulder blades, replied Sir Kenneth. Well, thy hands are bound at present, said the Saracen in more amicable tone, bound by thine own gentle sense of courtesy, nor have I any present purpose of setting them at liberty. We have proved each other's strength and courage ere now, and we may again meet in a fair field, and shame befall him who shall be the first to part from his foeman. But we are now friends, and I look for aid from thee, rather than hard terms or defiances. We are friends, repeated the knight, and there was a pause, during which the fiery Saracen paced the tent, like the lion who, after violent irritation, is said to take that method of cooling the distemperature of his blood ere he stretches himself to repose in his den. The colder European remained unaltered in posture and aspect, yet he, doubtless, was also engaged in subduing the angry feelings which had been so unexpectedly awakened. Let us reason of this calmly, said the Saracen. I am a physician, as thou knowest, and it is written that he who would have his wound cured must not shrink when the leech probes and tests it. Seest thou, I am about to lay my finger on the sore. Thou lovest this kinswoman of the Melech Ric. Unfold the veil that shrouds thy thoughts, or unfold it not if thou wilt, for mine eyes see through its coverings. I loved her, answered Sir Kenneth, after a pause, as a man loves heaven's grace, and sued for her favour like a sinner for heaven's pardon. And you love her no longer? said the Saracen. Alas, answered Sir Kenneth, I am no longer worthy to love her. I pray thee cease this discourse. Thy words are poniards to me. Pardon me but a moment, continued Ilderim. When thou, a poor and obscure soldier, didst so boldly and so highly fix thine affection, tell me, hadst thou good hope of its issue? Love exists not without hope, replied the knight, but mine was as nearly allied to despair as that of the sailor swimming for his life, who, as he surmounts billow after billow, catches by intervals some gleam of the distant beacon, which shows him there is land in sight, though his sinking heart and wearied limbs assure him that he shall never reach it. And now, said Ilderim, these hopes are sunk, that solitary light is quenched for ever? For ever, answered Sir Kenneth, in the tone of an echo from the bosom of a ruined sepulchre. Methinks, said the Saracen, if all thou lackest was some such distinct meteoric glimpse of happiness as thou hadst formerly, thy beacon light might be rekindled, thy hope fished up from the ocean in which it has sunk, and thou thyself, good knight, restored to the exercise and amusement of nourishing thy fantastic fashion upon a diet as unsubstantial as moonlight. For if thou stoodest tomorrow fair in reputation as ever thou wert, she whom thou lovest would not be less the daughter of princes and the elected bride of Saladin. I would it stood so, said the Scot, and if I did not. He stopped short, like a man who is afraid of boasting under circumstances which did not permit his being put to the test. The Saracen smiled as he concluded the sentence. Thou wouldst challenge the Soldan to single combat? said he. And if I did, said Sir Kenneth haughtily, Saladin's would neither be the first nor the best turban that I have couched lance at. Ay, but methinks the Soldan might regard it as too unequal a mode of perilling the chance of a royal bride and the event of a great war, said the Emir. He may be met with in the front of battle, said the knight, his eyes gleaming with the ideas which such a thought inspired. He has been ever found there, said Ilderim, nor is it his wont to turn his horse's head from any brave encounter. But it was not of the Soldan that I